Okay, we're going to get started. Okay, welcome back, everyone. I just want to thank our deputy clerk for restarting the system, and we are on a new YouTube link, I believe. So if you have friends and family following at home, can let them know. And so now we're going to go to the participants in person on the lake plan. I am going to ask, you've all heard the conversation thus far, to try and keep it to the planning merits. If you can go down in point form of what you approve or disagree with in the plan, that would make it easier for staff to know what the what the real issues are, the concerns are, or what's important, because they are the ones that are going to be bringing a recommendation to council. So, with that, I will ask members of the public who would like to speak to the plan to come up to the podium and give your name and your mailing address. So I'm not sure who wants to kick it off. Okay. And again, I'll ask that, again, obviously that there was a, we know that there's, not everybody is seeing eye to eye on the circulation but that is why the town sent out 436, I got the figure. We sent it first class mail, I think we call it, and so everybody has been, and that's why we're not making any decisions tonight. So with that, you can come up to the podium when it's your turn, sir.
Just a real quick question just on that. This is so divisive, and you want to not deal with that. But 50% of people don't agree. How does council going to resolve that? We can all point to the screens and this one, we don't like this and that size and this size. But the whole thing is, how does council deal with the 50% that aren't heard?
So I guess what I would say to that is we're here to talk about the planning merits of the plan. If you don't like the plan, I suggest you come up to the podium, tell us exactly what it is you don't like. If you know people who are concerned about it, please, there's still time to present your reasoning, and it will be our staff have heard loud and clear. We've heard loud and clear. We've received 90 some odd letters. I expect we'll hear some more, and it will be put into a report with a recommendation. And of course, it will be up to us to decide if we have heard from a fair amount of people. But I will tell you that that's how planning goes generally, not just with a lake plan, is you only hear from people when they have a problem with something generally. So this is the first lake plan that I've dealt with in my career on council. And so for some of us, this is a first time thing. We are trying to be fair. We're trying to hear everybody's point of view, including that, although that's not a planning issue. So that's a divisive issue, I agree, but that's not what we're here to talk about and make a decision on, okay? So if we can keep that out of it, I would greatly appreciate that. And it's really, I think it's important to hear what it is you like and dislike about the plan, because that's what council will ultimately decide on. Okay, so please start with your name and mailing address.
Richard Hurst, mailing address Box 880, Gravenhurst, Ontario. Thank you, Your Worship, Deputy Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to speak. I represent 519 and 643 Peninsula Road on Muldrew Lake. My wife Karen and I each purchased our parents' cottages in the 1970s. Together we have 130 years on Muldrew Lake, which is outstanding. This is our 30th year of living full-time on Muldrew Lake, which is also unusual as this community develops. Our grandchildren are fifth generation Muldrew Lakers, and we actually hope there's a sixth generation. We were active members of the MLCA. I was president from 93 to 96, volunteering on councillors projects. At a time, membership at the time in my presidency was in the low 90% range, which is extremely different than where it is today. Based on the current direction of the MLCA, we have taken the position that we will no longer be members. We object 100% to these applications. With membership in in the 40s in recent years, even if 100% membership support, which they do not, have a majority. Why is the council even considering this application? Mulder Lake should not be different than the surrounding lakes. We saw briefly on View's presentation, Loon Lake, which all the lots looked identical to the ones on Mulder, slightly different based on the lake. I've been an active snowmobiler for decades. I've been on Loon, Turtle, Pine, and others in the area. They're all very, very similar. Mulder Lake is not any different. Should something happen to my home, I'm one of the many, as I expect, under the proposal who could not rebuild. Next questions are, who will pay and has no money? How would we get back 130 years on Mulder Lake? We can't get it back because we could not rebuild. We've been paying insurance, replacement cost insurance for 40 some odd years. How do we settle that argument? Because I can't rebuild, so I can't get replacement cost. Big issues. Finally, who wants to buy on an overly restricted lake? Absolutely nobody. Would you pay market value for a cottage on an overly restricted lake? That's what this lake plan is trying to do, is overly restrict the lake. The town, the district, and all the others who've gone before have done an excellent job of putting the rules in place and making a reasonable balance between the different cottages that are out there. Every lot on Mulder was different. Every lot in the southern Muskoka is different based on the granite that's in that person's property. You can't have one package that applies to all. The town does a great job of looking at each and every one and deciding what they're able to do. Why change the rules for a small minority? We request you do not support, consider, or delay considering the applications that are before you. This has already gone on far too long. Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Come on up. We just need your name and mailing address, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. My name is Ted Alley, 765 Peninsula Road. I had a presentation to go over the process by which we got to this place. With respecting your wishes, we're not going to do that. I've already arranged with Mr. Ager to send him my material, and it will be circulated in due course. I just, apart from that, I wanted to voice my support for the lake plan. I've been heavily involved in its development since 2020, and I believe it's the right direction to go. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, so come on up. Just need your name and mailing address, please.
Donald Gray, 600 Juniper Drive. We're currently full-time residents on Mulder Lake. We've been part-time residents since 1959 and are thrilled to be there. My father developed about half of the lake in the 60s, late 50s, early 60s, mostly the northwest part of the lake. So we have a considerable attachment to and expertise in the lake process. Unfortunately, my dad passed 2 years ago when he was trying to engage with the current lake planners about what he liked about the plan and what he didn't. I personally am a retired lawyer. I was retired from Blake Castles in Toronto a couple of years ago, but our family cares deeply about the lake. We've now got, I guess, 4 cottages, 4 different family members, and hopefully we'll be there, like Mr. Hurst, forever. I understand completely your rationale to not want to go over the past communication process, good or bad, and I'll respect that. But what I would like to suggest is a process going forward. If we leave it at the plan as submitted is black and white, take it or leave it, then it's kind of a zero-sum game. And you can look at 90 letters saying don't like this, don't like that, don't like this. And I think what that's going to do is encourage more divisiveness and end up in sort of 2 unhappy halves of the whole. I'm really disappointed to have to be here because I loved most of the process. And frankly, I loved most of the plan. Part of it I object to strenuously. And that was my concern. In fact, one of the very last things my dad did before he passed was try to set up a meeting with these guys. Let's go through in detail what it is we're not happy with, and we can reach an accommodation, we can reach a compromise, and everybody will be happy, and you'll have the support, not of everybody, but maybe 70% as opposed to the 30 or 40% that is out there now. And so my request to this council would be to say, guys, you know, there's a lot of good work that's been done. The association's done a great job. I've been a member and not a member, as our family members have over the years. We're largely supportive of what the association's doing. We're largely supportive of what's in the plan, but very, very unhappy with the past process in that I went to some of these meetings and was frankly cut off and ignored. We did fill out the surveys in detail and were ignored. The last board meeting I was at 2 years ago, it was, okay, you guys don't want to engage with us, you don't want to have a collaborative process, at least let us communicate what we think are constructive alternative suggestions to the membership. No, we can't do that. Well, why can't you do that? We have legal advice that that's a non-for-profit corporation. They must give us the names of the membership so we can communicate directly. At that meeting, a motion was passed, and the record is there in the minutes of the meeting, that the membership list would be distributed to those who wanted to communicate as a whole. We were going to send we think, a well-thought-out professional summary of what we liked about the plan, what we didn't, and then they refused to do that. And at this point, we're kind of throwing our hands up. Okay, well, how about this? How about we will do a memo sort of indicating our alternative suggestions, and you guys circulate this just to the membership. They agreed to do that, and then they refused. And so it's kind of like, you know, we're all trying to move towards a better Muldrow Lake and a better Muskoka, but we've got what in my view is a little elite group who have made these decisions on behalf of the whole, or what they say is the whole, and won't consider alternative compromised positions. And so and I have no idea how the zoning process works or the planning process works or what it is you guys have to do. But if I was in charge, I would say, hey, you know, you've got Group A, you've got Group B, go and sit in a room for a day and see whether you can come closer. Right now, you've got a delta this big. I'm very confident with a little bit of time the delta could be this big, maybe even eliminated. You know, the differences of opinion we've heard are not that outrageous. And I would hate to, you know, take the position that, well, because only 30% of the lake owners support this, we're going to toss the entire thing out. But kind of if it's just their plan and our letters, it's you know, you're put in a situation where you kind of have to do that, and that would be a massive waste, in my opinion. I would love to have the opportunity, I've requested the opportunity, I hope I'll get it, to sit down with the planning committee and just see if we can breach some of the gaps and come up to a better solution, which we can then bring back to you, whether we have a vote on it or not, whether we, you know, distribute. I personally think we should distribute the new plan to everybody on the lake, member or not, and sort of you got, you know, 2 weeks or hold your peace. So that's what I would love to have as direction or guidance on this group. Thanks very much for listening to me.
Well, I would say, though, and to answer your, that's why we're here, right? That's why we're not making a decision tonight. I mean, they're watching, you're watching. We often find that sometimes, you know, handshakes are struck in these sort of forums. They're hearing some concerns, you're hearing their point of view. We would like nothing more than to stay out of the nitty-gritty,
Don't blame
right?
you.
So I would say that what will happen after we hear from everyone who's here to give their point of view, our staff are listening. Our staff may not be able to support some of it. So what's going to happen next is they're going to take all this information, they're going to hear all points of view, they're going to write a report of what they think is possible, what they think can work. We've heard that the district is not prepared to, you know, they're still doing a lot of work. So I think there is room for this. Am I wrong, Director Halford? But that's exactly why we're here, is to discuss this further and not to make any decisions today. So That was the intent all along. So hopefully, you've seen some of the members here that have spoken up. Maybe they'll shoot you an email, maybe you can
Okay,
give them
well,
a call.
I would love
So,
it. That's
that-
an offer from
that-
our family to the planning group. We would love to sit down and chat with you, and we are confident we could make a deal, and I think you have a better chance of getting this passed with more support from the members and non-member residents in the lake.
So-
we'll leave it to you, ball's in your court. I've made this offer before. My dad made this offer. We were completely ignored. Hopefully that'll change. Thank you very much.
Oh, well, thank you. Okay, so let's, who's coming up next?
I'm Peter Link, 10 Queens Quay, Suite 1004, Toronto, M5J 2R9. I was going to do mine remotely, but I feel strongly enough about this. I drove up from the city this morning. I have lots to do. So coming here on this afternoon is not pleasant chore, but I feel it's very important. And so my hat's off to you. Let me just begin that you have to listen to this. I don't know how you're going to resolve this because you're right, Madam Mayor. You don't need to know about the process, but the process is so important in that you're only listening to a small minority of people. And I have all the facts here, but you don't want to hear that. I did put it in a letter to Adam, and congratulations and my thanks to Adam, because that's how I found out about this meeting. He circulated this to the 400, and you mentioned 36 people, and so that was really great, because the association does a very poor job of that. Despite their claims, that's not the average sentiment. The average sentiment on the lake is that we don't respond to the association because we don't believe in the association. So why would I, as Grouchy, overarching sentiment, we don't want to participate in anything that they have to do for the reasons that Mr. Gray just said. So I'm in a very enviable position in this little pitch that I'm making, is that I concur with him 100%. And that's the sentiment of all the voices that you haven't heard that are in letter form to Adam. I don't know how you're going to review all that, because Lord knows you have other things to do as well. So I don't know how this all gets documented and then added up, and then this divisive situation, frankly brought to you by this association. And I have good friends on the lake that, unfortunately for them, find themselves on the wrong side of the argument. I don't know how we're going to resolve that. So the question is, if I say, you know what, I like, kind of like Mr. Gray said, I kind of like a couple of these things, but I don't like the screen porch idea on a setback that's within the 30 meters, how does that get resolved? I'm asking council, what's the process for that? Like, does planning say that, or do you guys say, you know what, we're voting in all the plan, half the plan, because I think it goes to what Mr. Gray said, what's the future presentation? Because that can work. If 100% of the people through the town, as an example, were told you've got to respond by March 31st or else, but the town drives that, you'd probably get a high percentage, because we care. We care. I don't care about the association. I do care about Muldrew Lake.
So this is the public meeting for this lake plan, just so we're clear. So there eventually will be a report brought to council, not before 2026.
Sure.
That will analyze the report, and then council will have a decision to make whether they want to adopt the plan. We are doing an official plan review. That's coming next year as well. So maybe the answer is some of these things from the plan go into the official plan. And then everybody, again, will have notice that that's happening. As far as tonight goes, we're here to hear you. We're here to hear the whole plan. We're here to hear bits that you don't like, bits that you do. So we will take it. Our staff is very good at, I guess, correlating that information, and they'll have an opinion on some of it. They might not like some of it too, but that's their professional role. They're planners. So there's some stuff I'm sure they'll say, this can't happen because for reasons we've heard. So, I mean, I think we have to, I know it's not, not what anybody here wants to hear, but we're not making a decision tonight. We're here to hear you. We're here to hear all sides of the argument. That's our role. So just to be, I'm going to go to Manager Ager. You know, we understand that this is a heavy thing for everyone. So we're not in an enviable position here. So I will let Mr. Ager, you know, and I would suggest, if you think the status quo, which we've heard very much tonight, we've heard from a lot of people that the status quo, they like the status quo, that every application comes to council, and council are ultimately the deciders. So
I think it's fantastic. I'm a property owner, and those are my rights, is that I'm only responsible to the planning department
of the town of Gravenhurst, not some association.
So that again, so if that's something that you feel strongly about, that, you know, provide that to us. That would be, you know, great. But I am going to go to Mr. Ager.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I'll just be brief, but I thought it'd be important. You'd pointed earlier, and decisions not being made here, and planning staff were very intentional in not bringing a recommendation report forward and letting this process happen, because we did know it was such a topical item. And in saying that, the reality is there's a few different avenues that can come from this, and one of those avenues is that the applicants can go back and make amendments to what they're currently proposing based on the feedback they're hearing. But one of the things they can't change is the process that's happened to date. But if they hear constructive feedback on policy changes or zoning bylaw provisions, and not repeatedly about how it's come to be, they could actually implement those changes, because if not, what we'll be bringing back is the same policy set that's here before you today. So I know I've had the opportunity of speaking to a large number of people in this room on the phone leading up to this meeting, and I've encouraged them that, you know, really focus in on the planning policies that are here, and I can appreciate their perspectives and everyone's perspectives on how we got here. But the reality of the situation is we have an application before us for an official plan amendment and a zoning bylaw amendment with proposed policies, and changes can't happen to this document unless we understand what people on the lake like and don't like within those policies and provisions.
Okay.
Are you referring, before I finish, to one specific, like, let's just talk about the screened-in, Mr. Gray raised it, or Mr. Goldsmith, the screened-in component of a deck that makes no sense, like makes zero sense. How do I register that as a non-starter, or is that, and is that by numbers? Does like
No, I mean, we heard it, so that is something. So I mean, and the associations heard it. I mean, I'm sure the association has taken in some of this feedback. I would hope. I hope.
I haven't seen much. I'm sitting behind them. I don't see any note taking.
So, well, I mean, but I'm sure they'll like nothing more than to go back, and they have a planner here again. So I don't want to get hung up on that.
No.
I want to hear what it is. We're here to talk about the planning. So let's stick with the planning, and I don't really, I mean, with all due respect, I don't want to go back and forth anymore about this.
No, and this is a very difficult position for you in the council. I get it. I'm just going to finish with this. This is from their documents. The MLCA cannot force all property owners to participate in the lake plan process. Voicing one's opinion in community matters is voluntary. Further, the MLCA's constitution provides that the only primary members are entitled to vote at meetings of the MLCA. Therefore, MLCA cannot hold a vote of the general population of the lake. That's from their documents. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, come on up. Just need your name and mailing address, please.
My name is Carino Principe, 104 Joyce Boulevard in Toronto. So I'm a second generation on Muldrew Lake and looking to potentially develop in the future for the benefit of my 3 children. Myself and many others, have you heard, are against the proposal as it exists, particularly some of the more restrictive development rights. We believe that the current guidelines that currently exist are fair and appropriate. Those were developed through ongoing consultations with various parties over decades, and they strike a balance that currently exists between the varying interests. We believe that the current proposal is putting forth the specific initiatives and agenda of a small group of people on the lake through the association. I will say that I am a member of the association. I was one of the individuals in 2023 that asked for a vote on specific components, because there are many components of stewardship that we agree with, and that was turned down. That's when I received the legal response from the association that they weren't going to do that. So quite disappointed that that happened. We are appreciative of the time and effort that members of the board do put forth, but we do feel somewhat that the board has kind of abused their power, taking the interests of a nonprofit association and not representing everyone's interest. I believe it has been misleading, some of the statistics that they're giving you that people are on board with this. They are referring to surveys where we talked about specific components, not the proposal as it's put forward. I also think that it's important for council to appreciate that a lot of the properties that sparked these initiatives and this problem, and maybe the development of the plan, is from a lot of large-scale developments that were even against existing guidelines, but they were successful in getting plan amendments. But if the current planning guidelines as existed were followed, I believe that it meets the appropriate stewardship guidelines that everybody's looking for on the lake. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. My name is Mark Mitchell. I live at 107 Manor Road East, Toronto, M4S1R3. My wife and I, we have a family cottage on Muldrew Lake, and we also have our own cottage, 541 and 244. I promise I will not go into the procedure of the lake plan. I'll stop. I have notes, not going to read them. First thing I want to say is, a bit of background. Both my wife and I have been on the board of directors for the Cottage Association. We currently are not members. But the other thing is that we're both graduate architects, and we've been dealing with planning issues for almost 40 years now. And I have to admit that putting a maximum cap on the size of a property, regardless of property size, seems very odd to me. It's not something that I think I've seen. The most egalitarian way of trying to promote, keep building size within reason is usually a percentage of the lot area, which is what we have now. If you look at the lake and you decide that you want to keep, 87% of the lake in its natural state, then it makes sense to me to limit the gross floor area of a build to 13%, which is what we have. So I really don't see the necessity of what's being proposed here. The other thing is that we already have a unique system of a sliding width scale. So the further you go back from the water, the wider the cottage can be. So our cottage that we have now, that we haven't redeveloped, is 10 meters away from the water. In that case, we would only be allowed 12 meters wide. So again, with the current bylaw, it doesn't mean that we can't keep going back on the property away from the water and maintaining or reducing visual impact on the lake and preserving the natural shoreline, but it still doesn't restrict us in terms of the overall size that we can build. So to me, for those reasons, I really don't see the necessity of those points that the Echo View and the Cottage Association have raised. We already have that covered. The other thing is that if a special site evaluation is required, every time anybody wants to do anything that isn't considered minor, and that's, of course, up for debate, they're proposing that we would have to have a site evaluation. And that gets quite onerous if somebody wants to put an addition on their cottage, slightly larger than 400 square feet, which they're proposing, various other things. And also, you already have a lot of restrictions in place in terms, I think there's tree protection agreements that have to be signed. You have restrictions on side yard setbacks, on the size or the width the docks can be on the lake, projections of docks. Like, there's all sorts of things that are already in place. It just gets redundant. The other thing I'd like to refute is the claim, and Mr. Hurst made this point, that Muldrew is special or unique. I love Muldrew Lake. I always will. As I said, I've been there for almost 60 years. But the one thing I do know is that Muldrew's not unique. We're a finger lake, probably carved out by glaciers, which is very similar to Turtle Lake, Loon Lake, Pine Lake, Bear Paw Lake, Silver Lake. The Muskoka is dotted with them. And they have the same granite outcroppings and same vegetation that we have. So there's nothing unusual there. So suggesting that we should be treated as special, to me, kind of reeks of NIMBYism. I think the planning department and the building department or council has already done a very good job with the zoning that's already in place. And also, one thing that hasn't been pointed out is that there's different zones on Muldrew Lake that restrict the size of new lot creation. And that's dependent on the width of the body of water where the lot would be created. So to create a new lot, you already need 400 or 500 feet, depending on the width of the lake in front of your property. I want to talk a little bit about algae blooms. This keeps coming up, and this sort of came up again with a lot of the surveys that were done. Questions were asked sort of like, do you want to preserve the quality of lake considering all the algae blooms we've had and restrict the size of cottages? Well, to me, the two do not go hand in hand. You could also argue, and right in the report, right in the lake plan, EcoView stated there is no known cause for the algae blooms that have occurred in Muldrew Lake. It could be argued that a lot of these older cottages that are already there have very poor septic systems. They haven't been maintained over the years. They haven't been designed in conformance with the size of the cottage. They're not set back properly from the distance of the water. If we encourage new renovation and new development on the lake, we would also be capturing the issues with septic systems being old, faulty, too close to the water. So I see that as being good planning to actually encourage within reason development, not try to put a stop to it. The other thing is like the algae blooms. At one of the presentations was talking about the warmth of the water. Well, the past couple of years when we had algae blooms, the water was unseasonably warm. It might have nothing to do with new cottage development. And as a matter of fact, a lot of their concern is for the size of cottages that are going to be built in the future. Well, those larger cottages aren't even there, but we still have algae blooms. So it's, by logic, it's not being caused necessarily by larger cottages. Okay, and then the other thing I just wanted to state, that lake plans generally tend to be very divisive. And you're going to see that. You've seen it today. You've seen it in the responses that you've had. You're going to see it. There's going to be a flood of letters coming in after this, I'm sure. And they end up costing cottage associations tens of thousands of dollars. They're going to waste a lot of your time, as you're seeing tonight. They're going to create more bureaucracy to manage. They're going to result in either longer approval times for building permits or requiring more tax dollars for more staff for monitoring this. And this is only a couple of lake plans that have come forward. What happens if every lake in your district develops their own lake plan? Again, why do we need that? We've already got zoning that captures a lot of these issues already, and we shouldn't be treated as anything special that I can see. The other thing is that again, being involved in design and construction for a long time, the more onerous and restrictive zoning can be, the more it tends to encourage people to try to build without building permits or put in septic systems without permits or docks without permits. I don't think you need to make it harder and harder for people to do things. We're all better off if we have zoning that we can all live with, it's fair, it's logical, and that we can encourage people to be part of the participation rather than be divisive like this. Okay, thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Anybody else coming up? Okay, welcome, sir. We just need your name and your mailing address, please.
Eric Steve, 631 Peninsula Road, Gravenhurst. We've been on the lake for 40-odd years. We had it as a 3-season cottage. When we retired, we decided to make it into a year-round home. We had a cottage with a block basement, totally unfinished, and we made extensive renovations, finished the bottom level. It's all above ground. In other words, we doubled the size of our living space and cottage with zero impact on the lake. And that kind of is my main point here, and I agree with a lot of the points that have been made, that the restricting the this arbitrary square foot restriction for development of existing cottages doesn't make much sense to me because it depends on what you do. And what we did was double our living space with zero impact. In fact, we improved things in terms of lake quality because we did a new septic system. And also my experience in looking at my neighbors and all of the improvements that people have made, every neighbor that has rebuilt and remodeled and improved their cottage is safer for the lake. They've improved things because they've met existing standards, environmental standards and building standards. And I think these requirements and all of this what do they call it? The evaluation report is just going to discourage people with older cottages that, as the previous speaker said, from undertaking things. They're just going to say it's not worth it. And that's not good for the lake. So that's my point. And I think that these restrictions are going to affect property values for our lake because our lake shouldn't be treated any different than any other lake. They're very similar lakes to Loon Lake, Turtle Lake, 9 Mile Lake, as Mr. Hurst said. And I don't think that we should be treated any different. Now, that's not to say that there hasn't been some good work done on the lake plan. There has been. I've been a member of the association for 40 years. I've been on the board. I participated in the surveys, but nobody asked for these specific bylaw changes. There is concern, legitimate concern, about development on the lake, but nobody asked for this kind of restriction. So anyway, those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, so anybody else coming up? Okay, welcome.
My name's Barb Vandervalk, and I'm at 715 Peninsula Road in Gravenhurst. I'll be very brief. I support this plan strongly. I've put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into it, as many other people have, and we've done our best. And I hope you'll make the right decision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That was succinct. Can anybody beat that? Let's see. No, welcome, welcome. We just need your name and mailing address, please.
It's Craig Daniels, 111 Laurent Boulevard, Lindsay, Ontario. I'm at 38 Greens Bay Lane, have been for 60 years. My parents, they built the cottage in 32, and I think we are very special. I keep telling my wife I'm special, but she says that's for another meeting. I support, I'm not a member of the Cottage Association anymore. I dropped my membership because I saw they're going in a different direction. I always thought the Cottage Association was supposed to be for a sense of community and somewhere to have fun and bring everybody together. Well, now it's like they're trying to tell the council what you're not doing and trying to critique it to the point where it strangles development. There are lots of changes I've seen in the 65 years I've been on the lake, and I've seen them go through the hoops with the planning people for obvious reasons, and the end result is it's a better place, and it didn't have the adverse effects on the lake. My next door neighbor was one that just went through that and improved on a lot of things that my great aunt's best friend built in 32 as well, and it was time to be changed. I think we should let government you people and the planning department do what you've been doing all along. My fear is we put another layer of restrictions on, it is going to affect the property value. Not that my children or my grandchildren are going to let me sell, but it's going to stop people from wanting to look at Muldrew Lake. I've always known it as Leg Lake, as a wonderful place. It's not unique. It's in a unique part of the world, Muskoka, period. And we should all appreciate that. But I think we should go back to allowing you people to continue doing what you've been doing all along, and let the Cottagers Association assume what they used to be doing. Having the water, having the go-between be water testing and the I Love the Cottage, that's wonderful. I'm not here to criticize that. I think that's kudos to them to get the lake involved in that. But I think they're overstepping their boundaries on trying to tell the planning people how to make more restrictions on our lake, which is going to have effects on the welcomeness of the community of Muldrew Lake. Anyways, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, great, come on up. Just need your name and mailing address,
Yeah.
please.
Janet Allen, 440 Hillsdale, Toronto, M4S 1V2. I'm on Muldrew. I'm also on the board. Wondered how many lakes associated with the town of Gravenhurst have a lake plan.
Three, including yours, so two others.
And the Kashi Lake,
Kashi's one of them.
Kashi, our lake potentially, or to modify, and then any other lake?
Yeah, someone will come up with it, but please proceed.
But
with
is
your
it
comment.
also, are there other lake plans in other areas? Yeah, so it's not uncommon for a lake to have a lake plan that's based on the official plan of the town. It's just a lake plan is just a modification of an official plan from the town, is it not?
Well, I'll just ask Director Halford to explain a lake plan.
Thanks. Yeah. So, through your worship, so a lake plan is where a lake association comes together, or a group of individuals come together and come up with policies that are unique to that lake. They were more popular in the past, but there are a number of lake plans across Muskoka. And the lakes that seem to have, that would like those types of policies have brought them in. So they are something that it's been generally a tool used for lake-specific policies where a group of residents have come together and wanted to see something different from the overarching policies of the official plan
Right.
implemented on their, in their geography, yeah.
Right, but it has to follow the official plan of the town.
No, that's the whole point of a lake plan, is that
But it's modified,
different.
it's not,
They're policies that, they are, any policies of a lake plan that relate to land use planning or official plan policies are then put into the official plan and are generally different. Otherwise, we don't like to duplicate in these documents. So if they're generally the same, they wouldn't be put in. But if there were things above and beyond what the official plan requires, then or more restrictive, then the lake plan policies then apply. But the whole point of it is that it is modifying the official plan.
that's what I mean.
to-
It's a modification of it.
That's right,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay.
3 Mile.
3 Mile Lake. Okay, so if everybody has had their opportunity to speak, I want to thank everyone for coming and providing. Yeah, I'm just going to thank the public for respectful dialogue. I appreciate appreciate you coming. And now it's council's turn. I mean, I think there was a lot of questions answered tonight, but there's so questions that council, if you have for our planner or for the Lake Association's planner, or I guess anybody who spoke tonight, but maybe we'll refrain from that. But feel free. So council, the question is out to you. Do you have any questions about this plan? Councillor Cairns?
I don't really have a question in regards to the plan. There was a comment made or something that was made in regards to the Love Your Lake program, and I understand that Muldrew Lake has taken up on that and will get the results. You'd be surprised at how wonderful the results of your Love Your Lake program will come to you, and it will actually, they did it on Gull Lake and Silver Lake last year, and the results certainly help us out a lot with the design, how you treat your shoreline and everything else. So that, I think, is going to be a huge part that, that our staff really do support as well. So I think good on you all for accepting the part to be able to participate in that. And when you do get your results for that lake plan, or for the Love Your Lake program, please reply to it and add your comments, because it definitely makes a big difference. But it's not really, it is part of the lake plan results, but it will also help with some of the decisions. Thank you.
Councillor Johnston, you have a question? Nope, don't touch it.
It's not so much a question, Your Worship, just a comment about the questions from council. Speaking for myself, a lot of information tonight and this afternoon. But for my part, I think what I would rather do is have the staff take all that's been heard today and the plan and so on, come back with a report, and I would have questions at that time, not tonight.
I will remind council that this is the public hearing on the plan, though. So if you have some comments, because if you want some comments put in the report, now's your time to sort of to offer that up. So, Councillor Jorgensen?
Thank you. I'd just like to get clarity on the process so we're all clear on this. The lake plan as presented, presumably then we've heard we will get a staff report speaking to it. And at some point that becomes a bylaw to pass. Is the lake plan, do staff foresee the lake plan being massaged or changed before, or is the application that's come forward and we take it or leave it? Or, of course, I mean, any of us could bring forward an amendment, but in general, it's, when it comes back to us for consideration, it's normally an all or none. Is that
Mr. Egger?
safe to say, or what is the process?
Certainly. Thank you, Your Worship, through you to Councillor Jorgensen. Great question. So to provide a bit more background, what you're seeing here, or the version in front of you today, is actually the second version that the town's received. The first version that we received and took in, staff reviewed it and went through the document. Our entire team redlined it, provided our feedback back to the Lake Association on both the official plan amendment and the zoning bylaw amendment component, with our thoughts, concerns, things we couldn't support, things we could support from a planning perspective. Sent it back to them. About less than a year later, we received the version that you now have, after a number of significant changes were made. The document then got to the point where no more further changes were really going to be made without having a lot more public input in the public meeting that we're having here tonight. So process going forward could look a few different ways. Staff, as we all know, will be analyzing all the comments we've heard tonight, plus we have all the letters that we've received. Also, for those in the audience or watching online, any letter that we've received have also been shared with the applicant. So it's not as if they're hearing this information also for the first time. That's the way these planning applications work. If staff receive public comment, it's shared not only with members of council, but the applicant as well. So they've received all those comments as well. It would be my expectation that over the coming weeks, staff have a dialogue with the applicant and gauge whether or not we're to be expecting a different version of the document, if any changes are going to be made based on what we've heard here today, this evening at this point, or if the document's going to stand as in its current form. If it stands in its current form, then what will happen next is staff will be bringing forward a detailed report with an analysis provision by provision on whether or not each one can be supported both in the official plan and the zoning bylaw. It'll also be taking into account all of the public comment that's been received to date, and then providing a recommendation on, as both the mayor and Director Halford pointed out, there's some things in the official plan that we might not be supportive of. There's other things in the zoning bylaw that we might not be supportive of, but other things that we're generally okay with and represent good planning. In saying that, if the document changes and changes significantly enough, we might have to have another public meeting. And I know that excites everyone. But if the provisions change enough that the notice that was originally circulated and the information that was originally circulated changed so significantly that the intent of the documents are no longer the same as what was contemplated, then technically we have to have another public meeting and circulate all 436 again. We'll send the letters in the mail and we'll do that. That's okay. That's why we do this. But if the document doesn't change, then what you can expect from staff is a very detailed report going section by section, assessing the merits of each part of the plan, and whether that's a document that's approved as submitted or a modified document at staff's professional opinion on the planning merits. The decision will then lie with council, right? We're just providing our professional recommendation on the applications before you and our opinion on the matter. So with that, we'll do our best to educate and provide guidance on that, and then the decision will be made by those around the table, and then ultimately with an official plan amendment, it would get ratified at the district should it be approved in whatever form it is.
So, Director Halford?
Excellent response, Manager Egger. I just wanted to add one point. The other matter that you'll have seen in the staff report tonight is that the district did provide comments about their update to the lake system health policies, and those were just released like days ago. So staff, they were actually released after when the staff report was written and uploaded to the agenda. So we want to take a look at that because that's based on decades of science, right? Their recommendations of what the setbacks are, what the vegetative buffers are, all of that, decades of science and people that are experts in the field, right? And they've, so we want to make sure that we're not, that we can make a recommendation in line with not only the district official plan, but the science behind it. So I just wanted to mention that, Your Worship.
Sorry.
You're having such a good time?
I'm having such a good
Okay.
time, and Director Halford just jogged my memory, but with those new policies and a new Town of Gravenhurst official plan too, I think it's also good for everyone to keep in mind that when we do change our official plan, there are going to be general provisions that affect all lakes. So what the rules are right now, a year from now or a year and a half from now might look different. So whether it's through this process or the town-initiated Gravenhurst official plan as a whole, which will be informed by those district policies as well, the rules on the lake are going to be different, so please stay engaged. The process will be similar. We're going to be doing a lot of public consultation on our official plan as it affects the town of Gravenhurst as a whole, understanding that it affects lakes specifically as well, and those general development policies may change too. So stay tuned for that. But just because this does or doesn't go forward doesn't mean the rules around development on the lake might not change in the future. So I just wanted to put that out there as well.
Okay, Councillor Varney?
Thank you, and through you. Although we do not want another public meeting, I have a feeling after what some of the gallery people have said, that perhaps some of you will end up talking to each other and perhaps realizing that some of you have maybe mistaken the things that have come forward, and maybe you will start communicating, and that way maybe another public meeting where there'll be more of you thinking the same way. I mean, I'm all about communication, and I think that this is what Mr. Egger just said, is that you might find that some of you are really on the same page, but maybe you've got your backs up a little bit, and maybe we will have another public meeting, which will not go on for so long. Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify, but this is the public's opportunity to speak to this matter as it is. So just, I mean, with all due respect, Councillor Varney, I don't want people to think that you're going to have the opportunity to chime in on this plan again. So, Councillor Morphy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Manager Ager. One statement that was made tonight by Mr. Hurst was that he has a larger than 4,000 square foot building, and if it burnt to the ground, he couldn't rebuild the same. And I find that I would like some clarification on that, because that doesn't make sense in my mind, that he wouldn't be able to rebuild his existing grandfathered structure should this 4,000 square foot limit be approved. Can you give me some clarification on that one? Thanks.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Morphy. That's a great question. And yes, I think that's a great point. So and that was something that staff had sort of flagged, is the reality is, if this plan goes forward, there's going to be a lot of situations of non-compliance on the lake now, right? There's going to be a lot of existing cottages, just as we saw as an earlier example here tonight, the 5 meters from the water. There's lots of other examples, whether it's 5 meters from the water or 6,000 square feet, or I'm not saying there's lots of examples of those, but you understand what I mean, reduced setbacks. And there's nothing in an official plan policy or zoning bylaw that can prevent the redevelopment rights on the exact same footprint to the exact same size. So you will be able to, whatever you previously had, you will be able to rebuild. However, I suppose there is a cautionary tale that should you not rebuild exactly that, you will be ending up here.
Okay, Councillor Strength.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, I would just like to add on to Director Halford and Manager Eger's comments. I sit on the Community Planning Services Committee at the district level, and we just, at last week's meeting, excuse me, advised that we will be conducting a statutory meeting for both the environmental resiliency and lake system health. So as Director Halford said, stay engaged, because those are important meetings coming up sometime in the new year that have a grave effect on this plan.
Okay. Anybody else? Well, looks like I get to say, Mr. Egger, are there any recommendations or comments to bring to the attention of council as a result of these proceedings?
Your Worship, staff would recommend that the report be received for information.
Okay, a bylaw has not been included in the agenda package for consideration later, I guess this evening. My script says this afternoon, as the staff report was prepared for information only and to receive public comment. If there are no further questions, then I declare this public meeting to be concluded. So we do have 4 other public meetings that we're going to deal with. If you didn't want to hang out for that, now would be your time to make an exit. We're going to take just a 2 or 3 minute break, but I would ask council to stay pretty close to your seats, because I'd like to get started again. Well, I've got to say, I think we had our youngest participant in here. Oh, wait.
I don't have you on the screen yet. You're talking, but they're not there. I'll go.
Okay, we're all set. So, welcome back. Thanks, everyone, for coming back. We will go right into public meeting number 3. I need these. I now declare this portion of the meeting to be a public meeting to deal with application number ZA33 2024 for Dove Barrow. I will now ask the Manager of Planning Services to please summarize the purpose and effect of the proposed bylaw and provide any additional information and correspondence relevant to the application. Manager Ager.
Thank you, Worship. Subject property is located on Cashy Lake. My clicker's gone to sleep at this point. The property is designated waterfront area in the town of Gravenhurst official plan and is currently zoned residential waterfront RW6F1 and subject to special provision 485. The property is developed with an existing detached dwelling and an open deck, 1 dock and 1 shoreline deck. The existing dwelling is located within the shoreline area of the property at a relatively visible location. However, the remainder of the shoreline is well vegetated with mature trees. The property has a limited depth, approximately 30 to 50 meters, and contains steep slopes moving down to the water along the shoreline area and at the rear of the dwelling. So the application was submitted in order to permit the construction of a new detached dwelling and construct a new 2-story garage with an upper story sleeping cabin and a septic system. The applicant requires the following relief from the zoning bylaw. Permit a minimum rear lot line setback of 4.4 meters where 10 meters is required. Permit a minimum rear lot setback of 5.8 meters for a detached 2-story garage where 10 meters is required. Permit a minimum setback of 20.3 meters from the optimal summer water level where 30 meters is required, and permit a minimum setback of 21.7 meters to the optimal summer water level for a septic system and leaching bed where 30 meters is required. And in support of the application, a planning justification report was prepared by Plan Muskoka, as well as a water quality impact assessment, as this property is on Cashy Lake. And you can see here the site plan really does tell the story. So the existing dwelling is in red. The proposed new dwelling is in yellow. And what you're seeing here is what we would consider to be an overall benefit. We're moving a dwelling back, but yes, at the cost of requiring a rear yard setback. You can see here, if you look to the rear where we're proposing the proposal is to reduce the rear yard setback. Anticipated impacts to the neighboring property are none. There's no development in the area, so there's not likely to be any. With respect to agency comments, the chief building official did indicate that the septic setbacks appeared to be satisfactory and that the minimum required setback from the hydro line is maintained, and noted that septic setbacks would be more difficult to meet if the bed is raised, but this would be confirmed at the building permit review and that the applicant could reconfigure the septic bed location if needed. And the infrastructure technologist expressed concerns about the proposed location of the septic system will block water that currently flows from the property over the municipal roadway. The deputy and the District of Muskoka had no objections, provided the appropriate development control techniques are implemented. And with respect to those comments, both the infrastructure concerns and the district comments will be able to be addressed through the required site plan agreement should the application be approved. So this is moving through site photos. This is looking southwest down to the property. So again, you're seeing those steep slopes and the development constraints that really forces the building envelope here and the existing dwelling. This is then moving to the shoreline area. And again, you can see that mature vegetation that was previously talked about. This is now moving north and looking at the rear of the property. This is looking west towards where the proposed garage area is, which is relatively flat. And again, you can see the shoreline, but there's still that mature vegetative buffer here. This is looking south end to where the septic system is proposed, the area of the septic system to the proposed garage. And then again, this is just looking up the slopes towards where the garage is located. Sorry, here's the septic field. My apologies about that. It's staff's opinion that the application is consistent with the provincial planning statement, conforms to the official plan, is appropriate and represents good planning. As a result, staff are recommending the application be approved.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ager. Does the applicant or agent have a presentation they'd like to make?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I'll get you to get it up. My name is Bobby Leppington of 190 Taylor Road, Bracebridge, Ontario, P1J, I forgot my postal code, P1L1J9, I apologize. Thank you, planning staff, for working with us on this application. I do have a presentation if it's going to, there it is. And just pointing out what a lot of what Adam said is that we have pushed the dwelling back, resulting in a rear yard variance being required, and we are not as wide as the previous dwelling. So we've gone with a narrower width, but come back towards the rear. This is just an overview of the variances required that Mr. Ager spoke about. And the supporting documents. We provided the planning justification report to speak to the policies within the provincial policy statement and official plan and support the application through zoning justification. We provided the water quality impact assessment report by Riverstone Environmental to support our development as proposed. And if we are successful in our application today, the site plan agreement will address the conditions and limitations within that water quality impact assessment. We will provide a stormwater management plan with engineered lot grading plan to address the slope stability that's required in the Riverstone report, address the stormwater management that's coming off the road to not impact the septic system. We will make sure we have a plan done by a civil engineer. This is a picture of the shoreline, and this is the shoreline that you can see the dock in the bottom of the right corner. I'm pushing the wrong button again. The dock here as well as the dock here. So all of the activity areas focused around the cottage, and the rest of the property is just left in a natural state. This is a concept plan of the proposed cottage, a modest 194 meter squared dwelling with a walkout basement. Concept of the garage, picture on the left is the waterfront view that you can't see from the water. The picture on the right is the road view, and I just gave you an overhead to get a shot of the garage, and it's the septic system. Part of the water quality impact assessment report required that we use a tertiary system, and not only is this the smallest footprint available, but it allows us lesser clearances to fit into the setbacks, and it's also drinking water quality before it hits the ground. So in summary, the lot shape and topography and the existing development of the cottage with septic, we feel that our cottage has a lesser width, the garage is well within a setback and buffered by vegetation, and the septic is set back greater than 15 meters to the code minimum, and we feel our development is appropriate and suitable to the lot. I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Okay. Are there any members of the public who would wish to speak to this application? Okay, seeing none? There was nobody online? No, okay. Council, any questions for the agent or our planner on this application? Okay, seeing none? Mr. Ager, as a result of these proceedings, would you like to make a recommendation?
Your worship, staff would recommend the application be approved.
Okay, the bylaw will be considered by council later this evening. If there are no further questions, then I declare this public meeting to be concluded. Public meeting number 4. I now declare this portion of the meeting to be a public meeting to deal with application number ZA25 2025 for Mandigo. I will now ask the Manager of Planning Services to please summarize the purpose and effect of the proposed bylaw and provide any additional information and correspondence relevant to the application.
Thank you, Your Worship. The subject property is located on Musquash Road and abuts Muskoka Road 169. The property is designated highway commercial area in the town of Gravenhurst official plan and is within the town's urban center and is currently zoned residential 1 and rural in part. The subject property is currently vacant with some utility trailers and machinery noted during the staff site visit. A significant portion of the property is flat and has been filled with gravel, although the northwest portion consists natural vegetation. The property also contains frontage on Muskoka Road 169 to the north and is relatively well separated from it by a strip of vegetated lands. The application was submitted in order to rezone the property from the residential 1 zone and rural zone to a commercial service C2A zone to permit a contractor's establishment as a permitted use. The proposed zoning permits the sale, rental, service, and storage of industrial tools and equipment on the property as of right. A contractor's establishment is not directly permitted within the C2A zone. However, this use involves the indoor and outdoor storage of equipment to support commercial contracting business. As the use predominantly involves storing service equipment, it will remain compatible with other permitted uses within the C2A zone and is less intensive than others that are currently permitted, is appropriate and based on the existing servicing infrastructure, and remains compatible with the surrounding uses in the area, which includes a building supplies outlet, the home hardware, and a boat and commercial vehicle storage facility directly to the south. With respect to comments, all agencies indicated no objection. However, the District of Muskoka did request that a holding symbol be included, and the removal of which would be when a traffic impact brief is submitted to the District Municipality of Muskoka due to the property's proposed use and proximity to District Road 169. And a holding provision has been included into the amending zoning bylaw prepared for Council's consideration. So this is the proposed concept plan. There's also a 3-meter vegetative buffer that we are recommending be incorporated into the zoning as well. So this is site photos. This is looking directly in from the entrance on Musquash Road. This is looking down Musquash Road and then back towards Muskoka 169. This is then looking directly into the site from the entrance. You'll see there is a wetland complex to the rear. Through extensive work with the applicant, their agent, and surveyors, it was determined that the appropriate setback is being maintained from that environmental protection feature. And then this is turning the other way. You can also see existing already vegetative buffering and screening from Musquash Road. And then this was the vegetative strip that's already existing, but separating the subject property between Muskoka Road 169. It's staff's opinion the application is consistent with the provincial planning statement, conforms to the official plan, is appropriate, and represents good planning. Staff are recommending the application be approved, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Is the applicant or their agent here for presentation? Welcome.
Good evening, Council, and through you, Madam Mayor. My name is Ryan Lloyd, planner with Planscape, 104 Kimberley Avenue, Bracebridge, Ontario, P1L1Z8. I'll try and be very brief. Thank you to the report. We agree with Mr. Ager, and thanks to Mr. Clark as well for all of his help. I'll just clarify, there were a few issues that arose because of this. As you can see, we assume this lot is completely within the urban boundary, yet we have a rural zoning, as well as the site alteration work, as well as the proximity to the EP. So because of that, Mr. Manigo did actually get a updated survey where we found that there was discrepancies from our initial submission. So we have confirmed that, as Mr. Ager has said, that this does comply to the site alteration bylaw. And just for clarification, we are rezoning it from R1 and rural to the C2A exception zone. Just for clarity, there appears to be some mapping or errors there, but we're not all really sure about, but this will just clean it up. Anyways, I'll keep it at that, but I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Okay, are there any members of the public here that wish to speak to this application? Okay. I keep looking at people in the audience because I think they got to be here for something. So if I'm not meaning to stare you down, but nobody? Okay, so council, are there any questions for our planner or Mr. Manigo's planner? I have one. So sometimes we see, you know, there's a couple examples where the use is a little industrial, not great to look at. I mean, we do know there's some residential places along there that have to travel there, and I know there's going to be some buffering, but at what point, I mean, I don't want to point anybody out, but I think we all know there's a couple places in town that we go, ooh, maybe that wasn't the best use for. And I think this is fine because it sounds like it's going to be in a building and such. But is there any plan for any sort of fencing to sort of hide the equipment from the road, or are we just counting on that buffering? Because it's not there all winter, right? So just a quick question. Just to make it aesthetically pleasing.
Sorry, I did have that in my initial presentation. I was just trying to streamline this. So Mr. Clark and I did speak about this. So originally we had talked about rezoning it to C3, where we decided that the C3 wasn't as appropriate for that area as a C2. So the C2 is service commercial as opposed to the highway commercial. So that was the one thing. I will just say that this is a concept plan, and the actual contractor's establishment is not proposed to be the entire building, which is also why we decided on the service commercial, as well as this is a commercial use, so it will be subject to a site plan agreement. Thank you.
Okay, I mean, it's easier to say it now than it is to say it afterwards, right? Like that we want to make it visually pleasing to the people who travel that road. Mr. Egger?
Certainly, thank you, Your Worship, and through you both, I know credit to Mr. Lloyd and Mr. Clark on coming up with a proposal that seems to fit the area in a positive way, and the inclusion of the vegetative buffer. It's also worth mentioning too, with that holding provision, the district's going to be getting a detailed understanding of how intensive a use is what's actually being put on site prior to the holding being lifted. A commercial site plan agreement can't actually be approved until the hold is off. So we're going to have a very clear picture of how intensive a use is actually going to be on this site to the satisfaction of the district, and should it be more intense than what we're originally envisioning right now. Obviously, it still needs to comply with zoning, but we then will have the appropriate controls to make sure that fencing or visual barrier is put in place at that time and not then having to go back after the fact. So with the amount of safeguards in place right now and everyone acting in good faith, staff are completely satisfied with what's being proposed.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? Sorry, Councillor Jorgensen? Almost missed it.
Yeah, I was debating. The sketch I'm looking at here shows a triangle of rural still on the property. Is that, what's the reasoning for that?
Madam Clerk, would you mind? Sorry, thank you. And without getting into too much detail right now, as Mr. Lloyd pointed out, this application was actually submitted quite some time ago, but there's been a lot of hurdles that both town staff and the applicant's staff have been working towards with both our GIS team at the district and surveyors to actually determine the true property boundary of this site. And the mapping that we had originally available to us online doesn't actually line up with what's the property. So that's why you're seeing that dashed line there. So we're working on correcting it. The right people know, and we're trying to update the parcel fabric. So we just wanted, without getting too much into the weeds, we're making sure we're only zoning the subject property.
Thank you. Mr. Egger, are there any recommendations or comments to bring to the attention of council as a result of these proceedings?
Your Worship, staff would recommend that the application be approved.
Okay, the bylaw will be considered by council later this afternoon. If there are no further questions, then I declare this public meeting to be concluded. Public meeting number 5. I now declare this portion of the meeting to be a public meeting to deal with application number ZA31-2025 for Gravette. I will now ask the Manager of Planning Services to please summarize the purpose and effect of the proposed bylaw and provide any additional information and correspondence relevant to the applicant or to the application.
Thank you, Your Worship. The subject property, 116 for Ratans Road West, is located in the eastern area of the town, more specifically south of Doe Lake Road, west of Housies Rapids Road, and east of Fawn Lake. The property is designated waterfront area and rural area in the town of Gravenhurst official plan and is presently zoned rural. I will just let you know, though, the only piece of the property we're actually dealing with is down in this corner. But you can see presently the property is a large, expansive rural property. The portion of the property subject to this application can be generally characterized as the southeast portion of the property and front onto municipally maintained portion of Rattan Road West, specifically at the end where the existing snowplow turnaround is noted. So again, that area, just for everyone's reference, is down here on the portion that fronts on this red line. The applicant, and this is the entire subject property, and this is what we're talking about through the zoning bylaw amendment. The application was submitted in order to rezone a portion of the land, which results from 2 proposed severed lots that was conditionally approved at the November meeting of Committee of Adjustment. One of the conditions was that the lots be appropriately zoned to recognize their area and frontage, both being 60 meters or more, or 1 hectare in size. And that's generally characterized by the rural residential zone, RR5, and not the rural zone, which is what's currently applicable to it. So this application before you is facilitating a required condition of consent. Staff are satisfied that the lot area and frontages meet the applicable proposed zone and that the retained lands remaining in a rural zone is also appropriate. With respect to agency comments, the comments that we received have all been addressed through the relevant conditions of a consent and dealt with at the Committee of Adjustment. And we will move on to site photos. So this is looking down Ratans Road West, and the first of the severed lots, which is to be rezoned, would be on your right-hand side. This is then looking into the property, which can be generally characterized as flat. It is treed, but there's ample building envelope. This is then moving down towards the end of the snowplow turnaround, and then the other lot being rezoned to RR5 would be on your right-hand side. And then the interior of that lot. And then lastly, this is a photo of the entrance into the retained lands, which is remaining unchanged. As detailed in the staff report, staff are satisfied that the application is consistent with the provincial planning statement, conforms to the official plan, is appropriate and represents good planning. As a result, staff are recommending the application be approved, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Okay, thank you. Is the applicant here? Okay, great. Welcome back.
I'm back. Ryan Lloyd with Planscape, 104 Kimberley Avenue, Bracebridge, Ontario, P1L 1Z8. I'm here to represent Chad and Amanda Gravett. Amanda was here earlier for the first 3 hours of the meeting, but she had other engagements. As Friday, I don't have anything substantial to add to the report, other than we agree that this is good planning and meets the intent of the PPS, the official plan of the District of Muskoka, and Gravenhurst. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, great. Is the applicant here? No, they left. Sorry, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little punchy. Are there any members of the public who'd like to speak to this application? Okay, seeing none. Council, any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Ager, as a result of these proceedings, do you have any recommendations for council?
Your worship, as detailed in the staff report, staff would recommend the application be approved.
Okay, the bylaw will be considered by council later this afternoon. If there are no further questions, then I declare this public meeting to be concluded. Okay, public meeting number 6. I now declare this portion, we'll just wait for Councillor Hunter to come back, who I should have noted left the room because she declared a pecuniary interest. For those tuning in, still tuning in. I now declare this portion of the meeting to be a public meeting to deal with application number ZA 32-2025 for Mall. I will now ask the manager of planning services to please summarize the purpose and effect of the proposed bylaw and provide any additional information and correspondence relevant to the application. Mr. Egger?
Thank you, Your Worship. The subject property is located on Lake Muskoka. The property is designated waterfront area in the Town of Gravenhurst official plan and is presently zoned residential waterfront RW6. The property fronts onto an open area of Lake Muskoka, and the lands slope up steeply from the shoreline. The property is well vegetated with mature trees, although the majority of the front yard is bedrock with little soil cover. It has been left in a natural state with vegetation, shrubs, and trees. Existing structures on the property include a dwelling with decks, a storage building, all located beyond 20 meters from the water. Closer to the water is a small pump house. There are also shoreline structures which are in a state of disrepair and require replacement, including docks, stairs, and an upper platform deck. There's also a small marine railway adjacent to the shoreline, and the upper deck platform and marine railway are indicative of the steep slopes on the property. The application was submitted in order to permit shoreline structures with a total cumulative footprint of 87.3 square meters, where 69 square meters is permitted. In support of the application, a planning justification report was prepared by Lanny D. Planning. Staff would note the proposed dock and boathouse exceed the 6.5 meter width that is permitted, based on a lot having less than 30 meters of frontage. However, existing shoreline structures, which are now falling apart, are 9.5 meters in width and provide legal non-complying rights, permitting the proposed shoreline structures at a 9.2 meter width. So again, here's a good example of legal non-complying structures and still being able to then be rebuilt regardless of what the current rules are. Whereas the existing docks also encroach into the required side yard meter setback, the proposed side yard setbacks will comply on both sides now and represent an improvement to the situation. With respect to agency comments, no objections were received by the circulated agencies, and 3 letters of support were received from neighboring property owners. So this is looking at some of the shoreline structures and docks in disrepair. You can also then see a neighboring boathouse immediately to the property. This is then standing on the upper platform. You can see the sunken dock that does encroach right now into the side yard setback, which this application will improve, and then the neighbor's boathouse. Then this is looking in the other direction. You'll see the marine railway, and then you'll see other boathouses in distance, and generally the shoreline activity area in the vicinity. This is then looking up to the property. Here's a great example of what not power washed bedrock looks like. So, and then as previously mentioned, the dwelling and decks are set back a distance from the lake. This is standing up on that deck looking down. The boathouse, or the proposed boathouse location for your reference would generally be in the center of the property and in the center of your screen here. And again, one look just down to the neighbor's boathouse. And actually this photo then just shows again looking out to the lake. It's not in a narrow waterway, it's in a very open area of the lake too, so impacts from the boathouse are anticipated to be none. As detailed in the staff report, it's staff's opinion the application is consistent with the provincial planning statement, conforms to the official plan, is appropriate and represents good planning. As a result, staff are recommending the application be approved, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Egger. I will now ask for comments by applicant Omar Mall, who has pre-registered to participate electronically. Well, you dodged a bullet, not coming up here today, because we've been at it since 3 o'clock, so welcome. Looks like you have more...
Hi, can you hear me and see me?
Yep, we sure can. Welcome.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I didn't expect the meeting to go so late, so I had to show up to work. But nonetheless, my name's Omar, and thank you for hearing me out, Your Worship. I appreciate your time. I've lived in Lake Muskoka for almost 10 years now. It's my first property I ever purchased, and probably my favorite. I have 2 kids now, and my intent is to build something so that it can last and outlast me and be there for my kids as well. Where I live is incredibly choppy, and the waves that come in, sometimes it's like an ocean. in the summertime when the storm comes in, and especially in the winter. The storms every year degenerate my dock, and so I want to build something secure and safe, and I want a bigger spot so that I could put 2 boats, so that I could eventually own a boat and lift it out of the water, because that's super important where I live. You can't leave a boat there because the waves are so rough. So again, I just want to thank you for your time. I appreciate everything you guys have done, and I hope that this goes through. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thanks for making time for us. You're probably a busy person, so we appreciate you. So, is there any comments from the public on this application? Okay, not seeing any. Council, are there any questions for the planner or Mr. Mall? Okay, seeing none. Mr. Ager, are there any recommendations or comments to bring to the attention of council as a result of these proceedings?
Your worship, as detailed in the staff report, staff would recommend the application be approved.
Okay. I've lost track of my paper here. I've lost page 7. Well, I've got another copy. I'll just use that. Okay. I now declare this portion, where is it? Oh. The bylaw will be considered by council later this evening. If there are no further questions, then I declare this public meeting to be concluded. Public meeting number 7. I will note that Councillor Jorgensen has declared a pecuniary interest and has left the room. I now declare this portion of the meeting to be a public meeting to deal with application number ZA33-2025 for Great Golf Muskoka Limited. I will now ask the Manager of Planning Services to please summarize the purpose and effect of the proposed bylaw and provide any additional information and correspondence relevant to the application. Manager Ager.
Thank you, Your Worship. The subject property is located east of Muskoka Beach Road and is known as the Taboo Golf Course. There we go. The property is designated open space in the Town of Gravenhurst official plan and is zoned open space and is subject to special provision 393 and open space and environmental protection in part. The subject lands are generally located in the northern portion of Gravenhurst, outside of the urban boundary, near the southern shores of Lake Muskoka in an area locally known within policy as the Muskoka Beach area. The western portion of the subject lands currently house the 18-hole Taboo Muskoka Golf Course, and the subject lands are accessed by an existing driveway off Muskoka Beach Road and are also bound along the west by the Hawk Rock River and extend to the east by the CN rail line. The application was submitted in order to amend the existing site-specific zoning on the subject property to facilitate the redesign and development of the Taboo Muskoka Golf Course. If approved, the zoning bylaw amendment would permit the following. It would add special provision 393 to parcels 4 and 5 on screen. And I'll take the moment here. So special provision 393 permits a golf course in the open space zone. So when the original plans were laid out for Taboo Golf Course, the town has a site plan agreement on file that contemplate these parcels of land 4 and 5 on screen as part of the golf course, but for some reason don't include special provision 393. So part of this proposal before you is to correct that error and ensure that 393 is on 4 and 5. So right now, 393 is on every parcel you're seeing other than these ones. So part of it is to add special provision 393 to 4 and 5. And the second half of the application proposes to amend special provision 393, which would now be on 4 and 5 as well, to permit cabins as an accessory use only to a golf course on a portion of the subject lands identified as parcel 1. So when we're talking about cabins as an accessory use, they're only to be proposed to be located in this area. The proposed bylaw then goes on to outline that a cabin shall mean an accessory building for the accommodation of persons with or without kitchen facilities. And it also then sets out a parking requirement of 1 parking space shall be required per cabin. In support of the application, a planning justification report was prepared by Malone Given Parsons in support of the application. The open space zone typically permits conservation, park, and cemetery, and as previously mentioned, 393 permits the golf course. And for parcels 4 and 5, what's happening here is correcting historical errors. As it relates for the establishment of the cabin portion of the property, staff are satisfied that the bylaw has been structured to ensure that the cabins are clearly defined both in their use as accessory to the golf course and in their location to be only within parcel 1 on screen. As detailed in the staff report, staff are satisfied that the technical requirements related to natural heritage features, servicing, transportation, and stormwater will be addressed through an amendment to the existing site plan agreement when the redesign is finalized, with the intent to minimize any adverse impacts on the subject lands or adjacent lands. With respect to comments, council did receive one letter of objection, which was received yesterday from the Muskoka Lakes Association. The letter generally focuses on the proposed cabins, their use and ownership structure, and it also questions the study requirements and the appropriateness of when they're being requested. And in that regard, as I just mentioned, understanding that there is not a finalized concept for the redesign, doing the environmental impact assessment, doing the functional servicing might be premature because the applicants don't necessarily know the exact specific location, and to require those studies up front would be onerous should we get to then the site plan stage, then move, and those studies then need to be updated. It is a high-level zoning bylaw amendment that not only corrects the historical error in permitting a golf course on 4 and 5 when it was originally contemplated, but the cabins being used specifically as an accessory use only is clearly defined. So if there's no longer a golf course, those cabins are no longer permitted. Also, with respect to the ownership structure, it's staff's understanding, and the applicants have confirmed that the cabins will be owned and operated by the resort for the traveling and vacationing public. There's no proposal for condominium or any sort of other types of ownership structures being discussed at this point in time. It's for having cabins as accessory uses to the golf course and clearly defining where they can and can't be on the map ahead of you. Understanding that a site plan agreement will need to be entered into and updated. Staff will then have already outlined the requirements that will be needed to support that application should this application be approved. So staff are satisfied that the proposal is appropriate, represents good planning, conforms to our official plan, and are recommending the application be approved. I'd be happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Okay. Now I'll ask if the applicant or their agent has a presentation to make. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. My name is Katie Schofield. I am with Great Golf. I'm the president of Low Rise Residential, and I will be speaking to you tonight. Unfortunately, our planner, Malone Given Parsons, was unavailable to come up tonight. My presentation largely mimics Adam's report, so I don't think we need to necessarily go through the actual presentation. We certainly support and respectfully request council to approve the recommendation as it's been presented. It's certainly our intent and desire to immediately move forward with our site-specific site plan for the golf course, the cabins, and the clubhouse on the lands. I can certainly take you through some of those details. The subject site, I think you're well aware, we own approximately 1,000 acres where the Taboo existing golf course is located today. As Adam's report has set out, the designation is open space. The zoning is in place for the golf course. We certainly identified an error in the mapping for the site-specific permission for the golf course on parcels 4 and 5. The site plan application or the site plan agreement that's in place currently for the golf course included these lands. However, the zoning was not carried through. So that is the reason for the request today. In addition to that, as it's been identified, within Special Provision 393, it also allows a clubhouse as part of the golf. We've requested cabins to be added to that. And yes, they will be commercial cabins that will be owned and operated by the golf course. And they are meant to create a world-class golf destination in Taboo and continue to improve upon the reputation of the Taboo golf course. I did also just want to speak to some of the comments that were received by the Lakes Association in the letter. I appreciate that they may not have had enough time to review the application and potentially have conversations, certainly with ourselves or potentially the town planning department. We do want to clarify for sure that these cabins will be commercial. They are commercial. That is the intent. We're not changing the zoning, the designation to residential. These will not be residential uses at all. They will be located, as Adam indicated, on parcel 1. That is what the zone provision is proposing. There was a comment about, we could develop up to 200. That's certainly not the intent. In fact, our planning justification report talks about approximately 20 units or up to 20 units, cabins. As well, they would be approximately 2,500 square feet. We have not finalized the design. We want to make sure the zoning is in place first, and then we're working on all of the supporting reports in order to accommodate that. As well, yes, a planning justification report was submitted with this file. There was a suggestion in the letter that there was no planning justification report. In addition to the formal site plan application, when we move forward with this, of course, we will have the engineering reports, the stormwater management reports, the transportation, all of those. We've already had pre-consultation with the town and the district speaking to what would be required, and we're moving forward with all of those reports as we speak. Our golf designer is well engaged, and as soon as we have our zoning in place, we will finalize those details, and in addition, we will move forward with that. So I believe that really addresses some of their concerns. We are here to answer any questions. Nigel Hollidge is with me as well, our general manager, as you know, for golf operations and resort operations. And we are really looking forward to continuing to be a long-standing economic business in Gravenhurst. This is really important to us. We believe this will really set the standard and will be a precedent in order to move forward with the rest of the resort redevelopment as well at Taboo, which is a long time coming, as we all know.
Okay, thank you. Stick around. There might be some questions. Tell me about it. Now I will ask for comments by Stephen Fauner, who has pre-registered to participate electronically. Stephen?
Yes, thank you very much, Your Worship. Are you able to hear me and see me?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Stephen Fauner, Northern Vision Planning Limited, 109 Meadow Heights Drive, Bracebridge, Ontario, P1L184. I'm here representing the Muskoka Lakes Association, and I do know that Ken Pierce, the president of the association, is present there in person. I believe he wants to make a presentation as well. Certainly the comments we just heard are helpful in terms of the fact that there was a planning justification report, but there was none that was referenced in the staff report or anywhere that I could find. So, and for me to comment on it, it was certainly short notice because I only found out about this over the weekend. So, still have a number of comments though. This is the first time that I've commented on or myself, because I do present applications in front of council from time to time, that we have a proposal that permits a number of buildings potentially, but we don't know where they are. We know they're within a certain parcel, but that parcel is very large. We don't know what sort of access road is potentially being used. We don't know the density of the buildings. We have an idea now of size, about 2,500 square feet, which is a pretty sizable commercial unit. But again, and there's been no other background reports that have been submitted with this, and they've indicated that it's a high-level zoning application. Maybe I should change my approach to when I bring items forward to council and suggest that it's high level and we don't have to do the background report. So I really have a concern about the application and the lack of information regarding these cabins. And again, to me, the location, the density on that particular parcel, those are pretty standard items for a proposal, and we're not seeing that here. I would also suggest too that there are certain things leaving to site plan control that Section 41 of the Planning Act does not provide control of, and that is things like density, setbacks. You can't have enhanced setbacks in site plan. You can show them, but you can't enforce them. There's nothing in the site plan agreement, of course, that would address land use, although it's been indicated that it's commercial. Under the definition that's being proposed, there's nothing there that indicates that these cabins would remain commercial and what would prevent them from being used residentially. And I think that that definition needs to be fleshed out more to ensure that these are available to the traveling public, presumably in some form of a rental pool. There's a number of things that can be incorporated in that particular definition that would provide clarity in that respect. I would have thought, again, that more background information would have been provided to have this as a complete application. I just find that it's wanting of more information, and I'm not sure. It's up to council, of course, to make the decision, but I'm not sure what exactly you're deciding on, where these buildings are going to be. So those are my submissions, and I appreciate the ability to address council. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else from the public who'd like to speak to this application? Okay, great. Okay, that's fine. You spoke first, so come on up. You've been here a long time, so I knew you were waiting for something.
Yeah, this is it. Yeah, my name is Leonard Hillier. I'm here with my wife, Pamela. Our address is 2-1160 Muskoka Beach Road. We live alongside the Hawk Rock River, and we're adjacent to the Taboo properties. So I'll be succinct. We are not in agreement, or we object to the application, but more specifically with part 2 of the application as I understand it, and that is these cabins. And did I understand the cabin size is 2,500 square feet? Is that, I heard a comment to that.
Yeah, I'll go to the applicant.
That's a cabin? That seems rather large as a cabin. But I guess the point is, we don't know how many. We don't know what the relationship is, or their site plan is in relation to the Hawk Rock River, which, as you know, is an environmentally protected area. Now, living on that river, there's a lot of species that we see every single day: amphibians, turtles, frogs, wild birds. It's spawning ground for fish, pike, and so on. So has due consideration for the development of that particular parcel with environmental concerns been looked into. So I guess what I'm getting at is that how can the council approve this application before we know what they're actually proposing to build? What's the access roads, the number of dwellings, et cetera, et cetera? Like, is that not putting the cart before the horse?
We don't normally do a back and forth, but I believe the applicant said that the reason they want to know if they're going to spend the dollars to investigate and work on the site plan, but they want to know if council is comfortable with the concept. That's what I understand it.
Well, be that as it may.
Is that correct? And
Yeah.
that's your understanding, Mr. Egger? And that nothing would go ahead until the site plan was approved anyway. So
It just seems to me, and with due respects, I did understand what was being said, but it just seems to me, again, the cart before the horse. We don't know what's going to be built there in any degree of specificity. The previous speaker, I think, articulated some of those issues better than I can. So this is what we're objecting to. We live adjacent to the property, and I would ask the council to reject at least that part of it. Thank you.
Okay, come on up. Oh, sure. Okay, thank you. Hello.
Thank
You need
you,
to introduce
Mayor
yourself.
and councilors. Ken Pierce, President of the Muskoka Lakes Association, 2232 Muskoka Road, 169, Gravenhurst, Ontario, P1P1R2. Just to follow up with our planner's comments, this is zoned open space with the emphasis on the word open. Generally speaking, there's supposed to be no structures. It's supposed to be passive recreational uses such as conservation trails and the like. Golf course is actually something that's been added, and I understand that. But if you're going to add buildings, they would generally have to be, and according to your official plan and your zoning bylaw, they have to be associated with the accessory uses to support the golf course, sort of like a clubhouse or a building to store equipment, or if you were going to have residential, generally speaking, it would be prohibited unless it was something for like a groundskeeper or a greenskeeper or something to house them, or for staff or something like that. The applicant said it's not going to be residential, but that's not what the bylaw says. The bylaw amendment, if it's going to say not residential, then you should put in not residential. There's no limits on the density. I don't know what the density permissions would be. Adam, could you pull up the screen that shows parcels 1 through 5, please, if you wouldn't mind? If you can do that. You're not in control. Oh, there it is, yeah. So if you look at the diagram there, parcel 1 looks to me as the lower left, and the middle, top middle, all seems to be parcel 1. And the current resort on the other side of Muskoka Beach Road, CC5 in that area, this area, parcel 1, looks to be roughly double the size of that. So, and there's hundreds and hundreds of units at the resort and residential on the other side of the road right now. So if you're allowed to put these cabins in parcel 1, that's a very significant area. And so if the applicant is saying they want 20, right now there's no limit. If the applicant is saying the size is going to be roughly 2,500 square feet, right now there's no limit. There's no requirement for them to be commercial or residential. There's no restriction. It doesn't say no residential. So without putting in some of these things, I think you've got a real problem on your hands, because it's uncontrolled. Like, I don't know if Adam can tell us what the density could be for cabins on this. It looks to be a couple hundred acres, maybe even more. It's as I say, roughly double the size of the resort property. So very serious things that I'm going to suggest that maybe you approve the rezoning for the golf course, but maybe defer on the cabins until you figure out exactly what it is meant by cabins. And when you say cabins, you think of something small. I would call them dwellings. I mean, we've all seen golf courses with mansions around the outside of the golf course. There's nothing to say that it's 2,500 square feet. It could be 6,000. The applicant has said, this is what we're thinking, but that's not what it says. The permissions are pretty wide open. So anyway, I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Did you have anything else to add, Mr. Ayer? Was there any questions in there? I guess. Okay. 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 So is there anybody else from the public here to speak to this? Okay, seeing none. Council, any questions for our planner? Or for the applicant, Councillor Morphy?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, yes, to the applicant. Over the years, we've had several things about taboo come forward, hotels, and they haven't happened. I'm wondering why you're heading down a cabin route before starting up some of the other projects that have been put before us.
Yes, please, welcome, and we'll just need your full name, thank you.
My name's Nigel Hollidge. I live at 83 Brickman Road in Thornton. My LOL 2N2. To answer your question, wow, it has been a long run trying to come up with the right ideas that we're trying to do at Taboo since the fire, and we've identified golf as the driving force to how to, I don't want to call it rebrand, but certainly create a stronger destination for giving people a reason to come to Taboo. Golf has had a renaissance, obviously, through COVID, but very specifically, golf destinations. There's many examples I could give you, but Cabot is a Canadian example, Cabot Cliffs, who have these very specific cabins to answer Ken's questions. And Mr. Hilliard, I'm not sure if I got your name right, but very specifically, it's about bringing golfers who travel together, 4 people at a time or 8 people at a time, coming to stay together, play golf, spend a couple days, and spend money at our resort. And we've identified golf as being a stronger way to do that right now. And quite frankly, it's a little easier to build and not quite as expensive as a hotel on the water. That is, hard to make money at.
Okay, Councillor Strength, question for Mr. Egger or the applicant?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. I'm just curious, parcel 5 is touching on the railway, and there was no sort of comments or suggestion. I know that in previous applications and a committee of adjustment, we've had sticky, doesn't it touch on the railway? That little corner on the bottom right?
Your worship, it's within the proximity area, so the application was circulated to the railway, but they had no comment or objection on the proposal.
That was my question. I was just wondering because, as I said, in our different capacities here, we've had them with some significant comments. So I was just making sure that wasn't the case.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, so I have one quick one. So, Mr. Egger, obviously you've brought forward an approval based on your professional opinion. So my question is, like we've heard that there could be 200 cabins, there could be 4,000 square feet homes, residential versus commercial. I mean, we're pretty confident that that's not what's before us today, right? Like we have no reason to believe that what they're proposing is not what they're going to do. And further to that, there are a number of things, safeguards in place to ensure none of those things happen. And especially, we heard about the proximity to the Hawk Rock. So that obviously, is a fair concern. I think we all worry about water quality. What will be in place to ensure that the development doesn't affect the Hawk Rock River?
Certainly, thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I guess two-prong parts. So first and foremost, the notion of 200 cabins. I mean, if you're building 200 cabins at 2,500 square feet of cabins, I think you have a field of cabins and not a golf course anymore. They would occupy so much land and space that they would no longer be accessory to a golf course. The bylaw suggests that a cabin has to be accessory to a golf course. In my statement earlier, if you don't have a golf course, you can't have cabins. So the notion of occupying that entire space, and I agree that is a large area where a cabin could be located, but the reality of the matter is the redevelopment of a golf course is a large undertaking, potential rerouting of holes and knowing where they're going to be sited exactly. in the absence of not having an environmental impact assessment done, and we all saw the aerial photographs and the mapping, there's a large area that needs to be studied. So to cite them specifically in one spot at this point did not seem feasible or realistic. However, as we'd heard from the applicant, they were proposing potentially a cap, or they have a general idea of what the size is going to be and the number is going to be. So there are other alternatives if it's the wish of council. You could include a limit of 20 cabins, I believe was the number that was mentioned, or limit the ground floor area of those cabins and include that in the amended zoning bylaw, should that be the will of council. That's an option available to you. Notwithstanding that too, as it results to the siting, I mean, the zoning bylaw still applies. There's minimum setbacks to the Hawk Rock River, and there's the minimum setbacks to environmental protection. So you don't just get to set these cabins at 10 meters from the Hawk Rock, or put them 3 meters from EP. There's other provisions of the zoning bylaw that are still applicable and have not changed for where these cabins can and can't go. Notwithstanding that, you're going to have the other topographical constraints. You're going to have the hydrogeological studies that are going to be required for the private servicing that's going to be involved for a cabin. So that work's going to be needed done, and maybe a well and septic works in one area and doesn't work in another area. So to specify that thou shalt put a cabin here isn't as realistic as potentially saying you can have cabins generally on this parcel, but potentially just limit the number that you can have and the size that you can have them. Seems like the appropriate approach.
Okay, one other question, if I may, because I don't like bringing staff into our time to debate, so I don't want to get my questions out of the way. It was mentioned by one of the members of the public, the first speaker, the electronic speaker, that it wasn't a complete application. Obviously, you deemed it complete because you did the report and things like that. So can you just, in your mind, in your professional opinion, it was a complete application. Is that right?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, yeah, certainly. And I mean, I certainly take exception to those kind of assertions that we're bringing forward you an application that we didn't deem complete. You heard that the applicants met not only with town planning staff, but also district planning staff on what this proposal looked like. And the group set out the expectations on what the complete application requirements were going to be for the zoning bylaw portion of their proposal, understanding that there's very detailed work ahead of the applicants in the design stage for the site plan component and the long list of studies that are required to facilitate that development. And not only did town planning staff agree that that was appropriate, but we also have comments from the district of Muskoka supporting the application as well. So in that respect, district planning staff are satisfied and town planning staff are satisfied.
Okay, thank you. Council, are there any other questions for staff or the applicant? Mr. Ager, as a result of these proceedings, is there any recommendation you'd like to make to council?
Your Worship, as detailed in the staff report, staff would recommend that the application be approved.
Okay. The bylaw will be considered by council later this evening. If there are no further questions, then I declare this public meeting to be concluded. Okay, how do we feel about just plowing through the rest of this? Everybody's fine? Okay, do you want to get Councillor Jorgensen? If you need a break, I mean, feel free just to step away for a minute. So, new business, just what we need. It is moved by Councillor Johnston, second by Councillor Jorgensen. Be it resolved that report number DEB 2025-82, RE planning fees review, be received for information, and that staff be directed to bring back a report in Q1 of 2026 with a recommendation regarding an updated planning fees bylaw. Director Halford, do you want to give us a quick summary? Oh, Mr. Ager?
Thank you, Worship. Through you, I will be brief. So for council's information and just a refresher, the town did release released a request for proposals, an RFP, to complete a comprehensive review of the town's planning fees as for the departmental work plan outlined in 2025 operating budget. The purpose of the review was to ensure that the town's planning application fee structure is fair, competitive, and reflective of actual costs associated with processing planning applications, while also aligning with the town's goals for sustainable development and economic growth. The town awarded BMA Management Consulting, Inc. as a successful proponent to conduct a comprehensive review of its planning fees. The primary goals was to determine the full cost of processing various planning applications and to ensure that the fees now closely reflect actual service delivery costs while remaining competitive with peer municipalities. The findings and the report was attached to this report for council's information. And with that, I will turn it over to Jim from BMA Consulting, who is joining us online to present their work. Take it away, Jim.
Thank you, Adam.
Welcome, Jim.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. Like Adam mentioned, I'll review the comprehensive user fee. I have a little bit of PowerPoint presentation we'll call up here. What I'd like to cover off in this presentation is the guiding principles, review the guiding principles, the methodology that we undertook in the study, some of the findings and observations as a result of our analysis, and then finally with the recommendations. So first of all, with regard to the guiding principles, these are the guiding principles that we used in the user fee study. Fairness and equity. Basically, the beneficiary is the applicant in a planning application, and therefore applicants should pay for the private benefit. And also, in terms of fairness and equity, ensure equitable cost distribution across various application types. The legislative compliance, fees must be reasonable and defensible. And in terms of the Planning Act, they should reflect the anticipated reasonable costs of providing that service. In terms of cost recovery, as Adam mentioned, we want to ensure that all of the direct and indirect costs are included in the calculation, which then would reduce the reliance on the tax levy. Transparency and accountability. We wanted to make sure there was a clear rationale for the fee calculations. And then finally, with regard to affordability and competitiveness, ensure that the final recommendations are competitive with remain competitive with the peer municipalities. Next slide is the operating budget. So we looked at the 2025 operating budget and how the operating budget is currently being funded. And you can see from this pie chart, only 22% of the funding for the planning department comes from application fees, and 78% from the tax levy base, which in terms of the distribution between the fees and the taxation, generally the fees are low in comparison to other municipalities. In terms of the application levels, what we did is we looked at a five-year history. I'm showing 2 years here. What's been happening in terms of the planning applications, there has been a decreasing trend in the number of applications. But you can see from this chart reflecting 23 and 24 applications and the types of applications, the top 6 application types, they represent 87% of the total applications, and they generate approximately 92% of the revenues that I just spoke of. So again, that it's important, especially in those areas, to understand the full cost of those services. In terms of the methodology to calculate the various application fees, first of all, we looked at your operating budget. And again, in accordance with the Planning Act, all direct and indirect costs are eligible to be included in the planning fee. Also, including corporate support costs. These are costs that across corporate costs across corporation, such as finance, human resources, and IT, that contribute to the the applications as well. So currently, they're not in the budget, but we worked with finance staff to come up with an estimate of these corporate costs that are relative to the planning's department and applications. And we use the Ministry of Finance recommended approach for municipalities under 100,000, which essentially is a percentage of expenditures. And it worked out that corporate costs related to planning applications was about $58,000. So that was, we included that in the calculation of the costs. Process mapping, staff prepared detailed process mapping for the various types of application. And the process mapping helps us to identify the staff time related to the processing of the various applications and the costs associated with the processing. We employed an activity-based costing exercise, again, to calculate the full cost. So essentially, we took these staff hours, added an overhead factor based on the indirect costs and corporate costs to come up with the amount that we would apply to each hour of processing fee, or the processing. And then finally, we compared the results with the peer municipalities. So in terms of some of the findings throughout that exercise, the existing fees, first of all, we found are not recovering the full cost of service. There's certain services, again, we did some benchmarking with other municipalities, and there's some services that do benefit an individual or developer that currently there is no user fee for. And other municipalities do charge, in fact, for the services that we've identified. There's an opportunity to expand the discounted fees. There's certain combined applications where it is appropriate to have a discount. For example, OPA and ZBA. There's some duplication of work that's involved in processing those types of applications. ZBA and consent, and minor variance and consent. So what we're proposing is, in fairness to the applicant and the duplication that is involved in the processing these applications, that we provide a 25% discount in the calculated fee. So based on our findings and the calculation of the application fees, we estimate, again, based on the average of the applications for the last 2 years, if we use that as the premise for going forward, that would generate an additional $222,000 in annual revenue. And that equates your tax levy is about 20.6 million. So that's almost 1% of your tax levy. That, again, it's appropriate that it could be recovered from user fees rather than the tax base. The next slide is, I just want to talk a little bit about minor variance and consent fees. When we did our process mapping exercise and activity-based costing, these fees, when we did the calculation, these fees came in substantially higher. And in fact, they were higher than the peer average. So there is some rationale to reduce these fees. They're primarily from residents and small developers. By reducing these fees, it increases the likelihood that an application would be made rather than proceeding without a permit. It reduces financial barriers for homeowners and small developers, potentially facilitates multi-generational housing and additional housing units, potentially boosts small scale construction and trades, and it does support long-term residents. So for these type of applications, minor variance and consent, we are recommending setting the fees at the average of the peer municipalities that we compared against. And the next slide, I talked about there's certain services that there is currently no fee for, and these are the services that we identified. Just in terms of the pre-consultation, maybe speak about that a little bit. Right now, there's a pre-consultation that takes place for various types of application. And leading practice from other municipalities is to charge a fee, because a lot of times what may happen is that staff have time or spend time with the applicant, and the applicant doesn't proceed with the application. And so this is a way of recovering those costs. But if the applicant does proceed with an application, we recommend that it be, because a lot of the analysis has been done, that be deducted from the application. Go to the next slide. So in terms of the recommendations, we do have in our report a fee schedule A. We recommend that be approved. We also recommend that the planning fees be indexed on an annual basis in accordance with the CPI. And then processes change in terms of planning applications. So it's, again, leading practice to undertake a comprehensive review every 4 to 5 years to ensure that the applications are in fact recovering the full cost of service. And I'd be happy to answer, just to summarize, going back to our guiding principles, in terms of fairness and equity, our recommendation is the applicants do pay for the direct benefit that they do receive. They are the beneficiary of the service. The results are in compliance with the legislation. The fees anticipate the reasonable cost of carrying out the application, processing the application. In terms of cost recovery, it does reduce, by implementing these fees, it will reduce the reliance on the tax levy. And again, we estimate about $222,000, which is approximately double the existing revenues that I showed earlier. In terms of transparency and accountability, the process mapping exercise, the activity-based costing and benchmarking, all provides a defensible approach to the calculation of the fees. And then in terms of affordability and competitiveness, the resultant fees are at or below the peer average. The two that were above that I referred to, the consent and severance, as I said, we recommend that they be brought down to the peer average. And be happy to answer any questions you wish.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. Council, are there any questions? I don't have a question. I just have a comment. I mean, we've been talking about this for a long time, that the planning department should not cost the ratepayers as a whole. Like, planning should pay for planning, right? So, anyway, Councillor Jorgensen. Oh, sorry, Councillor Morphy.
Oh, thank you, through you, Your Worship. The two I have questions about are the no pre-consultation fee and the pre-hearing fee. I think when people buy a property and they want to come in and say, how big can I make a shed? What can I do on it? We're now going to charge them to come in and ask a few questions. Is that what that's referring to? Because I think that would keep them from coming. I think they just go ahead and do their own thing. If that's what that's referring to, I might be wrong.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Through you to the councillor. Not necessarily that. It would be more for larger scale where we would require more detailed pre-consultation. However, the point of tonight is to get comments just like you've brought forward from council so that we can make a recommendation at the next planning council meeting in next year on where we take the recommendations from the report, your comments tonight, and then we'll bring forward a recommendation. So it could be that, yes, for every application, I think where they're going with it is that, yes, we would charge for every single one of those. Now, there's a big difference between a small cottage lot versus a 50-unit subdivision kind of thing, right? So we might be able to come up with some sort of a happy medium there, keeping in mind that we do want to encourage people to talk to us and engage and get permits where necessary. So I think it'll be finding that balance, but not leaving money on the table, because at the end of the day, this benefits those property owners, and it's to help protect, as the mayor mentioned, the rest of the tax base, right? So that they're not paying for one-off planning applications. So
Councillor Jorgensen?
Thank you, Worship. And I really just had comments to make. First of all, I just want to compliment the consultant on a very clear presentation. I think there's a lot of detail behind this, and I think he did an excellent job of outlining the problem and the solution. So as well, I'd like to echo Your Worship's comments that, it helps the taxpayers. I think that's an overriding concern here that people making applications should be covering the costs of those. And I think this goes a long way there. And as well, we see many of these applications at Committee of Adjustment, and mostly the minor variances and the consent applications. And I think the comment was raised during previous discussions about, encouraging people to apply for these things. And I think that would go a long way to keeping people compliant if they felt it was a more reasonable fee. But at the end of the day, I really support the principle of having the applicants pay as much of the cost as is reasonable in this. So I'm very pleased with the result of this study.
I have a quick question. Well, two quick questions. I mean, people have option, maybe a cheat sheet of just the basics, right? Like maybe we could have that resource for people. So if they're just wondering, here's the cheat sheet. I think that's a great idea. But then the other thing is, I know sometimes real estate agents probably blow a lot of time. Like, or they do pay for it? Okay, I was just wondering. But I know that they spend time to find out information. And also, I'd like to say that the mapping available now, people can do a lot of, figuring out on their own if they're the least, you don't even have to be savvy, trust me, because I'm not. And you can find out a lot of information about a property just by going on that amazing resource we all have if you have internet, you have it, is GeoHub. So things have come a long way, I think. Anyway, anybody else have anything to add? Councillor Hunter?
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, sorry, I'm still trying to form the thought fully in my head, and it's late. But I guess my question, as I'm looking at these fees, some of the increases, and we talk a lot about building affordably, or we want affordable housing, and we want those projects to come forward. And sometimes the fees are a bit of a deterrent, and so. When I see a jump in some of these fees, I just wonder if that was considered, and if we feel that might kind of push away some of those affordable housing projects that we hope to come forward.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, through you to the councillor. Excellent point, and it's something that we as staff talked about as well. And there is the option, and we've done it a couple times around this table, where if a proposal is for affordable housing, the fees can be reimbursed or waived through council's decision. So if that could be part of when we bring back our staff report, maybe we could bring back a policy or something of that nature where, let's say if it met the affordability criteria of the District of Muskoka or something like that, that we could, formalize that process a little bit. But again, anybody has the ability to come forward and ask for that fee waiver. It's council's, okay, I won't. But that's the point of making a deputation to council, right? It's whether it makes, whether it's appropriate or not. Sorry, I'm a bit punchy now too. But we have done, as you recall, like Habitat for Humanity is one recent example, and for that great development there. So we just have to make sure that the other developments are paying the cost of the work that's going into it, and then the tax base isn't covering that off. But it's a very good point. It's one that, and I think why we've grappled with and delayed doing this review, and why we're the first in Muskoka to do this level of review, because it is, we haven't wanted to be seen as inadvertently deterring development from occurring. But at the same time, there has to be a fine balance between the taxpayers paying versus the property owner, right? So that's, I agree, this report was very articulate in that regard, and we are looking forward to bring back a report to you in the new year based on your feedback. So thank you.
Okay, so I think we can go through these next two items real quick, but we have to vote first. Thank you, Madam Clerk. So please vote on that last item. And that carries. Thank you very much. So it is moved by Councillor Morphy, second by Councillor Robinson. Be it resolved that report number DEV 2025-83, RE bylaw to appoint members of the Committee of Adjustment be received for information, and that Council approves the appointment bylaw to appoint voting members of the Committee of Adjustment, the Secretary, Treasurer, and Deputy Secretary Treasurers. Any comments on that? Pretty standard. Okay, please vote. Take the opportunity to thank our members of the public who serve on that committee. It's usually a pretty good dialogue around the table, and appreciate their time and dedication to service. So that carries, thank you. And then it is moved by Councillor Strank, second by Councillor Varney. Be it resolved that report number DEV 2025-84, Shore Road Closure 06-2025, Nagelson, Pine Lake be received for information, and that Council hereby declare the following lands as surplus: the original Shore Road Allowance, OSRA, designated as Part 9 on 35R 15683 in the former Township of Wood, now in the Town of Gravenhurst, District Municipality of Muskoka. So, any questions or comments on that? Please vote. And that carries. Thank you. And now, we are going into bylaws. We all know we know the drill. If there's anything, we are going to read a couple separately because we had a couple pecuniary interests. So we will deal with those separately. So that is 85, zoning, Great Gulf, and... Okay, okay, thank you. Thanks for keeping me on track, Madam Clerk. Moved by Councillor Karen, second by Councillor Johnston. Be it resolved that the following bylaws be read, passed, and engrossed into the bylaw book. Bylaw number 2025-80, zoning, Dove Barrow Kashi Lake. Bylaw number 2025-81, zoning, Mandigo Musquash Road. Bylaw number 2025, zoning, Gravet Ratans Road West. No, I missed one. Bylaw, sorry, I'm distracted because there's something happening behind me. Bylaw number 2025, zoning, Heman Nixon Muldrew Lake. Bylaw number 2025-83, zoning, Gravet Ratans Road West. Bylaw number 2025-84, zoning, Mall Lake Muskoka. Bylaw number 2025-85, zoning, Great Gulf Muskoka Limited, Taboo Golf Course. Bylaw number 2025-86, appoint Committee of Adjustment. So we know we are going to pull bylaw number 2025 and 83 and 2025-85 to vote on separately. Does anybody want to pull any other items? Councillor Morphy?
Thank you, Your Worship. Number 3 and number 6, unless somebody would take number 3 off my hands, and I will only do one, which is Heman and Nixon and Great Gulf.
Yeah, so we're pulling Great Gulf already because Randy has to vote separately on it. So that's already done. So Heman and Nixon, Muldrew Lake, anybody else? Okay. So Madam Clerk, can we get the bulk of them done so then we can get that over with?
Yeah, let's do Cornet first, and we'll go
Okay.
to Great Gulf, and then
Okay.
we'll go to Heman, and then back.
Okay. I wanted to do the bulk of them. Yeah, because then I felt like there was more done.
Okay, so
Okay.
Devon Barrow, do you want me to?
Okay, so we are going Dove and Barrow, Mandigo, Mall, and Committee of Adjustment. So let's vote on those, please. Okay. Yeah. Whew, that feels like a weight off. Okay. So now we are going to go to Gravette and, yep. Did anybody want to speak to Gravette, or we've just pulled it to vote separately? Okay, so we'll vote. All in favor? And then we'll go Heeman and Nixon. Councillor Morphy, you wanted to start that off?
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. Yes, I want to see this happen, but I want it to see it look good from the lake. So I'm wondering from Manager Ager what we can do, whether it's stone facing that bottom basement, if it's vegetation, if there's anything we can do to save this application.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Councillor Morphy. Staff can certainly appreciate where you're coming from, but with the changes to the Planning Act from the provincial government, we can't control things like that through zoning.
Just on that, I would say I was pleased to see that they weren't doing it in Bluebird, you know, periwinkle. I mean, it was going to be in dark, so I thought that was, anyway. Councillor Jorgensen?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I think I heard from Ms. Leppington that they understand the visual aspect of it and will be working towards that. That's what I think I heard. Just, you know, a comment on this. It's a situation nobody like, none of us like the result. There's no question. And I think either way, you know, if it was turned down, none of us would be happy with that result of tearing something down like that. And at the same time, it's a tall building. We get that. To me, you know, what really made we have 5 letters of support, and we had all the you know, all those people from Mulder Lake, and no one spoke again. I was quite shocked, to be honest, because really the only impact of this application is visual. I'm convinced that the engineering's been done well, and that's why it looks like this. It's a safe building. It's just visually very imposing. We get that. And to have no objections from a significant number of Mulder Lake people in the gallery speaks to me that I think they understand that, yeah, it's unfortunate, but at the same time, you know, it's tacit approval of it by not objecting. So that really decided it for me, that I can support it, even though, you know, again, it's reluctantly. I think we're all going to be holding our nose, and it's not something we want to see happen on a regular basis. But given all the circumstances surrounding it, I understand, you know, and feel I can support it.
Okay, I'm going to go over to Councillor Johnston.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, I can't support. I want to help this couple. It's a sad story, and but I can't. I disagree slightly with my colleague here. There is another impact. The impact is something I've spoken about often at this table, and that is that it bothers me when we make these small little exemptions. It's the death of 1,000 cuts. We just keep making these small exemptions. So, my one question I want to ask Mr. Ager, if I might, Your Worship, is that so I don't want it to be turned down. I don't want the bylaw to be turned down. I understand why staff said it should be, but I want to help these couple. But two questions, Mr. Ager. You know, I think you made the point. Can I call you Randy?
Oh, you sir.
Okay, Randy. I think Randy said this about, you know, what would be the permitted height if we used the old standard, right? If we took that rather than the one average, you took the other. I mean, I think that could be done. May not be able to do that tonight. So my question is, you know, maybe we could defer for that. But I would like to know what that is, and maybe because then I'm a little bit more comfortable. You know, if it's one of these, you know, non-compliant, but you know, pre-existing use, I have less of a problem with that. But right now, I couldn't vote for this bylaw. I could not, because it's this, you know, death of a thousand cuts. We keep doing this and saying, well, it's okay. But I want to help this couple. So there's that question, Mr. Ager. And secondly, perhaps given what we've heard tonight, and you and your team and the applicant, you know, maybe there's something that they might be prepared to do with the existing building to get it less so that it's you know, we're granting another exemption, and they're small, but we just keep doing it all the time. So that's, I guess, my twofold question to you, Adam Ager, Manager Ager. Sorry.
Okay, so there's a question there. I mean, two. So I just like to caution the counselor that I don't really like to bring staff into this portion of the meeting, because this is our portion of the meeting. This is where we're going to debate. Any questions should have been asked at the public hearing. But I'll ask Mr. Ager if he does have a question. But I have the feeling that you mentioned a deferral. And so I get a feeling that this is going to pass and not be deferred. So I will ask the question to Mr. Ager. Do you know that number?
No, Your Worship. I know it was asked in the question part of the proceedings this evening, and to pull some of the curtain back and show the magic, we've had staff in the background during business hours look for that information, because we knew it was something that we wanted. So we were looking through roll files and building permit files, reaching out to the applicant's designer, trying to determine what that number was. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get it. The reality of the situation is the building is there. You know, the height's there, and what's being requested. We have the surveyor report. We know what that height is. And that's the decision before council, obviously understanding the position that planning staff are in. But with that, no, that number hasn't been determined, and the best we were able to provide council is the side-by-side comparison of what the two structures look like.
Okay, Councillor Varney.
Thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. I am agreeing with Councillor Jorgensen regarding this, but my only problem with it is maybe with what Councillor Johnston is saying, is that we start giving and then other people are saying, well, you did it for them, why won't you do it for me? So this concession thing starts to roll down the road. Although I almost feel like I want to defer it, because then maybe there are some concessions that we could look at in the new year that would help this couple out.
Okay, so Councillor Strength.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would just like to confirm that if we vote yes this evening, the application is approved. If we vote no this evening, the application is denied.
Yeah, you always vote in the affirmative.
I'm just clarifying.
Yes, okay, great. Okay, Councillor Hunter.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through you, I just wanted to agree with Councillor Jorgensen that I do think it speaks volumes that there was 5 letters of support. There was a room full of people that were questioning the size of buildings moving forward, and yet not one of them came forward with, you know, a negative thing to say about this one. I think they're doing their best to try to buffer it and make it look, you know, appealing. And so I would support it going through.
Okay, so Councillor Johnston did raise the idea of a deferral, and Councillor Varney, you did suggest that you would support a deferral. So I'm going to give you the option to formally put a deferral forward if it's something that you wanted to do. Is that something you want to move for deferral? Because I don't want to say that I didn't give you the opportunity to defer if you want to defer it. Yep.
Your worship, I don't know whether there's any appetite, but as I said, as a matter of principle, I would like to defer it. Otherwise, I'm going to have to vote no. But if there is some appetite for a deferral, then good. But if not, I've said my piece.
I have heard from 1, 2, 3, like four people that you're in support of it as it is. So rather than I'm just, from the conversation, I literally heard from 4 people, I think. I mean, Councillor Strength wasn't, you were clarifying, but I took it as you were going to vote for yes. So rather than drag it out, I will, I'm going to give my 2 cents on it. I mean, it's tall. It's really tall. However, a lot of it is that foundation, and I don't know exactly what happened there. I'm not an engineer. I don't know anything about how that happened. It's unfortunate. I imagine it was very troubling for the people who are building it. I don't think that this is a case of build it and then ask for forgiveness. I think that this was a problem that unfolded through no fault of any specific person. Again, we had the whole. I thought what was incredible to me is that this group is trying to limit what they allow on Muldrew Lake, and nobody objected to this. So I thought that was quite remarkable, really. But anyway, I'm going to support the application. I don't think it's one of those things where they're asking for forgiveness. I think that it was just a really unfortunate situation for everyone involved, and hopefully they can screen it with color of siding and things like that. So yeah, anyway, that's my 2 cents on it. Normally I agree. It's not something I would approve coming forward, but I think we have no choice. I don't think we can ask them to tear it down. So I'll call the question. Yeah. So we'll vote to adopt the bylaw. Okay, and that carries.
Do you need a 20-minute recess?
No. So we are going to roll into Taboo.
Oh, right.
Great Gulf.
Yeah.
So we pulled it for Randy, but then Councillor Morphy, you wanted to speak to it?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just, in light of a couple of comments that we've had and the neighbor and the admission by Great Gulf that they're willing to say it's not going to be residential and they're going to be only up to 20 and only up to 2,500 square feet. I think if we include the wording, sorry, I'm getting there too, include the wording in the bylaw and mimic what they've said, that would make it a lot clearer for everybody. So that's what I would like to see considered.
Okay, Mr. Egger.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, so staff are more than capable of amending a bylaw should that be the wish of council. I think we would just need a few matters specifically clarified. We heard earlier the cabin number being 20 total cabins, so I want to just understand that 20 would be the number is what council is looking for. I would also then, there was a talk about the limiting the ground floor area or how much they occupy on the lot. I want to know what that number is so I can make sure it's in the bylaw appropriately. And then my last comment anecdotally would be, in terms of whether it's residential use or tourist commercial use, it's a tourist commercial business, and we don't tell hotels that they can't be residential units. We don't do that in a zoning bylaw. So I just wanted to put that out there, but again, happy to amend the bylaw as council sees fit. So I just need to know a couple of numbers.
So, do you need a few minutes to do that? Okay, so, I mean, does that meet the intention if we were to add that? I'm just gonna go to the applicant. I don't want to put something in there that, you know, that 20 is the limit? 20 is the limit? Square footage, 2,500? Sorry?
Me or us in perpetuity, it's 20, never more,
No, 20 on the
on partial one.
on partial one, I think.
I mean,
That's where the cabins are going now anyway, right?
so sorry, Your Worship, through you. I guess the thought of in perpetuity, I mean, technically nothing's in perpetuity. It would be 20 permitted as of right now, and anyone could come in and apply to make that number
That's
in the
fine.
future.
I just
Sorry.
needed that clarification.
20, okay, 2,500 square feet per unit,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So we can add that to the bylaw?
Average, yeah. I mean, I'd like an average for those 20.
Yeah,
So some might be 2,000,
Maximum
might be
20.
2,700,
okay.
you know.
Maximum 3,000?
I think average
Okay,
is
average.
5 for us.
Perfect,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
great. You know, if we can, okay. So in the meantime, I'll let Counselor Varney, we're going to prepare that. If it meets your needs, then we'll look for a seconder, okay? Counselor Varney?
Thank you, through you. I'm just wondering also about the concern about how far it would be away from the Hawk Rock River. Is this something that should be included? No? I'm just
It would
asking.
already be included as per, our regular bylaw would
Okay.
only allow it to be within a certain, of a water course, okay? Okay. Does anybody else have anything they would like to see in this bylaw?
Put it into SharePoint, just tell me where.
Okay, so I'm going to ask I know we're going to have to read it, but is there a seconder? It was moved by Counselor Morphy for the amendment, seconded by Counselor Cairns. And we'll get the language up on the screen in just a second, okay? Okay, so I think we're going to just, rather than have the pressure on Mr. Agger, we're just going to formally, so the people who are still watching at home can come back at 8:40. It's 8:35 right now, and so 8:40, they can come back. Because I'm sure there's dozens of them. Okay, we're back. Okay, welcome back. We're still here. We have one amendment to put on the, we're going to put it on the screen and I'll read it. It is moved by Councillor Morphy, seconded by Councillor Cairns. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-85 zoning, Great Gulf Muskoka Limited Taboo Golf Course be read, passed, and engrossed into the bylaw book as amended to include within special provision 3933 regulations, maximum number of cabins, 20. The average maximum gross floor area of a cabin shall be 232 square meters when taken cumulatively among all cabins built. Okay, any further conversation surrounding this application? Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor? I'll note that Councillor Jorgensen has left the room again. And that carries. Thank you very much. Well, we have one more here to read. And it's been a long, long night, so I want to thank staff and council for putting in the time. It was, I think, the longest meeting I've hosted, other than a budget meeting. So thanks very much. I appreciate everybody staying engaged. So it is moved by Councillor Johnston, second by Councillor Jorgensen. Be it resolved that the minutes of council meeting dated October 28, 2025 be approved as circulated. All in favor? And is moved by Councillor Morphy. Oh, I have to vote. Councillor Cairns?
Thank you, Your Worship, through you. It used to be in the past, and I know that I declared at the planning, or at the regular council meeting in regards to an application under Karen's name, and it is in this, so I don't know where I sit as far as approving the minutes, because I did have to declare a pecuniary interest on that portion of the application. So if I could get clarification, just for my own clarity and to be sure that I'm following the proper procedure. Thank you.
Madam Clerk?
Thank you. The minutes are approving the actions of the meeting. So you have you did declare, and that is noted in the next month when you did declare. So there's not an issue with you voting and participating in adoption of minutes.
Okay, yeah, no problem at all. Okay, so.
I need one more vote in. Okay. There it is.
Okay, and again, thanks again. It's moved by Councillor Morphy, second by Councillor Robinson. Be it resolved that bylaw number 2025-87 to confirm the council meeting held on November 25th, 2025 be passed. And please vote. And see you tomorrow. Oh. And it's moved by Councillor Jorgensen, second by Councillor Hunter, that we adjourn.